Well, Tartaria was everywhere, and history is fabricated, completely fabricated, all of it. We used to think, well, the Dark Ages, we don't know what that is. We realised that they invented the Dark Ages and just put that in there to push a whole bunch of stuff back in the past. And we realised, some of history might be wrong, but no, it's all fabricated. The whole lot is fabricated. An interesting thing is the architecture we find all around the world, in all of our cities, that old Gothic style architecture, incredibly intricate design, and people look at it and say, oh, that's just the way they did things in the old days. A lot of those buildings, they're so beautiful. The design of those buildings is so beautiful. And think about it, if we lived in a feudal culture, if we lived in a culture where you had to go out and work for a living and earn a wage in order to pay to be alive, you would never have had the time or the inclination to construct buildings that look like that and function in the way they did. These buildings were created as artistic statements. I mean, they were functional, they were power sources, they were generators. They used to generate their own free electricity, all sorts of things. But they were constructed in such a way that the beauty was a part of it. You just wanted to celebrate what you were creating. We don't do that sort of stuff anymore. Just the beauty of those buildings and the incredible complexity of those buildings is a great indication that we didn't live in this pay-to-be-alive society that we're living in now. Tartaria was all over the world. It was an advanced culture that had free energy. It was based on etheric energy, and it existed up until around about 200 to 250 years ago. We think even the earliest would be about the mid-1700s. It maybe was destroyed, possibly even a little bit later than that. And around about 1880, the late 1800s, they repopulated the world with children, and then they taught them whatever history they wanted. And you got to wonder where all the children came from. Just look up foundling homes and foundlings and orphan trains across the United States, across Europe. They were everywhere, children everywhere. A couple of years ago, I was reporting on all this sort of stuff. And then the fires broke out and COVID broke out, and I had to kind of leave the topic and get on to more important things that are dealing with us now. But they repopulated the world with children in the late 1800s. They were literally having, they had amusement parks where they had babies on display. They had baby raffles in Paris in 1915, trains of orphans going across the country, across the United States, orphans being sent out to Australia, New Zealand, Africa, just repopulated the whole world with children, then taught them whatever history they wanted. And now we've got to this point where they're basically harvesting all the souls of those people. It's like they grew their herd, I've often referred to the earth as a people farm. We're living in a people farm, and people don't really realize it. I think of each country as its own separate pen, and what they've done now at the end is just harvest time, and they're stock taking. They've closed all their pens, they're doing their stock take, and they're harvesting all those souls that they can get, leading them into the mainframe. And it's a natural progression from what happened in Tartaria. I mean, this will be the complete loss of human consciousness if they are able to lead us in there and actually able to get away with this. It will be the end of humanity. But when you really look at what we had, I mean, it's incredibly inspiring to see the art and to see the ancient history that's right there in our own cities, if you just go out and look around your city with the right eyes.
It's going to affect everyone in society, worldwide. This isn't just a US thing. I think people really need to waken up to what's going to happen.
And the question is, how is it going to affect you personally? What are you going to do personally? How is it going to affect your family?
I would just be very prepared for what's about to happen, especially as we get closer to the election.
It's going to be like an asteroid hitting planet Earth. So the real purpose of this show is to prepare for it. The problem is most people are like deer in the headlight, right? They're just, no, it's going to come back. Trump will save me, Biden will save me, Ocasio-Cortez will save me. But I think that we're heading into the biggest disaster I've ever seen.
We all know at this point 55 million Americans lost their jobs. Reports just came back yesterday that the US GDP dropped 32.9%. Let me say this one more time. US GDP in second quarter lost 32.9%. That's like a company's revenue dropping 33%, which is scary, but it's a country, which is even scarier.
If they don't bail this whole thing out, the trouble is, how big would that bailout have to be? How big would it have to be? There's a thing called CMBS, commercial mortgage-backed securities. They're like the loans on the office buildings and shopping centers and all that. They're broke. Can the Fed bail them out? Plus the pensions, plus mom and pop who lose their jobs. They could be 40, 50 years old, 3 kids, a mortgage. How big is this tsunami going to be?
We've seen the market come back quite a bit. It's really because the Fed's been printing monopoly money, and the stock market's just betting on the Fed to continue to do so. I see a train wreck coming at the end of this month when you have the $600 a week benefit ending, student debt relief ending, mortgage debt relief, and this crisis, which the media will not let go. I see a collision course headed in the market very soon. So this false sense that your 401k balance has increased, I would just be very prepared for what's about to happen. What you're aware of, you can control, but what you're not aware of will control you. And the more you're aware of what's going on in the economy, pension, and the stock market, the more you can prepare for plan B.
Let me give you an idea how long it takes to print $1 trillion. It takes less than a minute, 12 keystrokes. But if you were to spend $1 trillion at $1 a second, it would take him 34,000 years. And in the last few months, the pensions have gone short, just for the public guys, by $7 trillion. That's a lot of money to me. So that's why it's gold, silver, Bitcoin right now. But just as a pure hedge, a defense mechanism, I think you need plan Bs. How are you going to generate income? Really, it's time to be more creative and figure out how you can generate more.
If you were in a certain industry, you took a big hit, you're not to blame. Because who the hell was under the impression we're going to be told to not go to, kids cannot go to school and shut down industries? You and I didn't know that. We've never been through this before. This was the first time. But if it happens a second time around and you stay in an industry that took a massive hit, then it's your fault. First time around, not your fault. Second time around, it is your fault. The industry that took the biggest hit, okay, June over June last year, unemployment June of 2020, unemployment of June of 2019. Leisure and hospitality's unemployment rate is 29%, is the highest in any industry. Then it's mining, oil and gas extraction is 17.8%, transportation and utilities 12.9%, then it's information 12%, wholesale, retail and trade 11.2%, construction 10.1%, manufacturing 9.1%, education and health services 8.6%, personal and business services 8.6%, then it's self-employed, unincorporated and unpaid family workers 8.1%, then government workers 7.3%, then agriculture 5.4%. You know what the lowest one is? 5.1% financial activities, financial services. As a career, you have to figure out a way to position yourself where you're panic-proof. By the way, I'm not telling you everybody's leaving that industry. I guarantee you most people don't like change. Most people like to stick to the same thing. Most people don't want to even see any kind of change, because as you get older, the hardest thing to do is change. You become this person that just kind of wants everything to be the same. You don't want that. But that's also a scary place to be. But if you look at these stats and you don't go study how they took big hits, why they took big hits, and how long it's going to take for them to recover, and you keep staying in that industry, and it happens to you again 5-10 years from now, you can't be upset at the government, you can't be upset at the economy, you can't be upset at a virus. The only person you can be upset about is your decision.